Right now, as you watch this, something may be quietly eating your nerves alive. And the cruelest part is, it's probably something you had for breakfast. I'm Dr. Luna Mercer, and I've spent the last 18 years working with patients who come to me confused, frightened, and often angry because they were told the same lie over and over again. They were told their nerve pain, their tingling feet, their numb fingers, their burning legs at night were just part of getting older, that nothing could be done, that they simply needed to accept it and manage it. I reject that completely. And today, so will you. What I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes is not a wellness trend. It is not a supplement pitch. It is hard, clinical truth, the kind that took me years of patient outcomes, research reviews, and late nights going through lab results to fully understand. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. So stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you may be the most important thing anyone has ever explained to you about your nervous system. Let me start with a woman I'll call Patricia. Patricia was 71 years old when she first came into my office. She walked carefully, not slowly but carefully, the way someone walks when they no longer trust the ground beneath their feet. She told me her feet had been burning at night for 3 years. Not uncomfortable, burning. Like she was standing on hot sand at 2 a.m. Her toes went numb during the day. She'd started dropping things, cups, keys, because her fingers would lose feeling without warning. And occasionally, a pain like an electric shock would fire through her leg for no reason at all. She had seen 4 doctors. 4. And every single one of them said the same thing. Patricia, you're in your 70s. This is neuropathy. It happens. We can manage the pain. Not one of them asked her what she was eating for breakfast. Not one of them looked at what was happening inside her body every single morning before 9 a.m. That omission cost her 3 years of worsening damage. Because here is what none of those 4 doctors told her, and what I am telling you right now. The leading cause of progressive nerve damage in adults over 60 is not aging. It is not genetics. It is not even full diabetes. It is something called chronic blood sugar toxicity. And it is happening inside millions of people who have never once been diagnosed with diabetes. People who eat what they believe is a healthy diet. People who go to their checkups. People who take their medications faithfully. People exactly like you. I need you to understand what that phrase actually means, chronic blood sugar toxicity, because it is not what most people picture. When the average person hears blood sugar, they think diabetes. They think insulin shots and glucose monitors. They think of a condition that either applies to them or doesn't. But the science tells a very different story. Blood sugar is not a binary, diabetic or not diabetic. It is a continuous biological environment that your nerves live inside of, every second of every day. And when that environment becomes even slightly hostile, even temporarily, repeatedly, over time, nerves begin to die. Here is the mechanism. And I want you to follow this carefully, because understanding it is what's going to change how you think about every meal you eat from this point forward. When you eat something that converts to sugar quickly in your bloodstream, and I'll tell you exactly what those foods are in a moment, glucose levels spike. Your pancreas fires out insulin to deal with it. That process works reasonably well when it happens occasionally. But when it happens multiple times a day, every day, for years, something shifts. Your cells start resisting insulin. They stop opening their doors to absorb glucose efficiently, so that sugar stays in your bloodstream longer. And while it circulates, it does something devastating. Sugar molecules in high concentrations bind to proteins, including the proteins that make up nerve fibers and the tiny capillaries that supply blood to those nerves. This process is called glycation. And what glycation does, essentially, is caramelize your nerve tissue from the inside. It creates oxidative stress. It triggers chronic inflammation. It degrades the myelin sheath, the protective coating wrapped around every nerve fiber in your body, like insulation around an electrical wire. Without that coating intact, nerve signals misfire, scramble, or stop completely. And here is the part that should make every one of you uncomfortable in the best possible way, because discomfort right now could prevent catastrophe later. This process begins long before blood sugar reaches diabetic levels. Studies published in peer-reviewed neurology journals have confirmed that measurable nerve damage begins in the pre-diabetic range. Not diabetic, pre-diabetic. A fasting blood sugar of 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter, a range that your doctor might call slightly elevated or something to watch, is enough to initiate this damage over time. And according to the CDC's most recent estimates, nearly 98 million American adults are pre-diabetic, 98 million, and approximately 80% of them have no idea. That means right now, tens of millions of people are walking around experiencing what Patricia experienced: tingling, burning, numbness, shooting pains, being told it's aging, when in reality, their nerves are being slowly chemically destroyed by a process that started quietly, years ago, with something as ordinary as a glass of orange juice. I want to talk about that orange juice for a moment, because this is where I see the cruelest irony in senior health. The very foods and beverages that are most aggressively marketed to older adults as gentle, easy, nutritious, and healthy are often the ones doing the most damage. Fruit juice, smoothies, breakfast cereals marketed with words like heart healthy and whole grain, sports drinks, flavored yogurts. These are not fringe products. They sit in the health aisle. They are recommended by well-meaning caregivers and family members trying to ensure their loved ones are getting enough nutrients. But here is what happens biologically when you drink a glass of orange juice on an empty stomach in the morning. You are delivering a concentrated hit of fructose and glucose directly into your bloodstream with almost no fiber to slow its absorption. Blood sugar spikes, sharply, rapidly, within 15 to 30 minutes. Your pancreas responds with a surge of insulin, and while that cascade is happening, your nervous system, particularly the long peripheral nerves that reach all the way down to your toes and fingertips, is bathed in a chemical environment that is actively hostile to their survival. Repeat that pattern every morning for 5 years, and you have a very good explanation for why Patricia's feet were burning at 2 a.m. Now let me tell you about the second invisible poison, because blood sugar toxicity does not work alone. Inflammation is its accomplice, and they are a vicious partnership. Chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that doesn't announce itself with fever or redness, the kind you can't feel, but that is measurable in your blood, sensitizes nerve tissue. It lowers the threshold at which nerves fire. It amplifies pain signals. It is the reason why some people with mild nerve damage experience excruciating burning, while others with similar damage feel only mild tingling. The difference is often their inflammatory burden. And the primary drivers of that inflammatory burden in older adults are once again highly processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and certain vegetable and seed oils that are used in virtually every packaged food on grocery store shelves. There is a third dimension to this that most people never hear about, and it is one of the most important things I can tell you today. Certain commonly prescribed medications that millions of older adults take every single day, silently deplete the nutrients that your nerves depend on for structural integrity. Metformin, one of the most widely prescribed medications for blood sugar management, is known to deplete vitamin B12 over time. Proton pump inhibitors, the acid-blocking medications taken for reflux and heartburn, impair B12 absorption significantly. Certain statin medications, used to manage cholesterol, have been associated with nutrient depletion that affects nerve function. Vitamin B12 is not optional for your nervous system. It is the raw material from which myelin, that protective nerve coating I mentioned earlier, is built and maintained. Without adequate B12, even nerves that are not being assaulted by blood sugar toxicity begin to deteriorate structurally. They become fragile, they misfire, they generate false pain signals, they lose their ability to transmit sensation accurately, and the insidious part is that B12 deficiency develops slowly, often over years, and the early symptoms look exactly like neuropathy from other causes: tingling, numbness, balance problems, fatigue. So you can imagine what happens when both processes are occurring simultaneously: blood sugar toxicity degrading nerve tissue from the outside, and B12 deficiency weakening nerve structure from the inside, in a patient who has no idea either is happening. This is why I see patients in my clinic who are deteriorating faster than expected, and it is why testing matters more than assuming. Now I want to return to Patricia, because her story doesn't end in my waiting room. When I ordered a comprehensive workup, not just a standard panel, but a detailed metabolic and nutritional assessment, here is what we found. Her fasting blood sugar was 114, pre-diabetic. Her 2-hour glucose tolerance test showed a spike to 198 milligrams per deciliter, nearly the diabetic threshold, after a standard glucose load, and her B12 level was 187 picograms per milliliter. Normal range begins at 200, but optimal neurological function is associated with levels above 400. She was running at less than half of what her nervous system needed to function properly. And she had been taking a proton pump inhibitor for 7 years. Not one of her previous 4 doctors had tested her B12. Not one had run a glucose tolerance test. She had been given standard fasting glucose results that came back a little high, nothing to worry about, and sent home. We changed her morning routine first. The glass of orange juice she drank every day for her health, gone. Replaced with eggs, avocado, and vegetables. We added a high-dose B12 supplement, methylcobalamin, the most bioavailable form, under medical supervision with regular monitoring. We adjusted her meal composition so that she was never eating carbohydrates alone. Every carbohydrate she consumed was paired with protein or healthy fat to slow gastric emptying and blunt the glucose spike. We did not prescribe her anything new. We did not put her on an extreme diet. We did not ask her to run marathons. We asked her to walk for 10 minutes after each meal, because post-meal walking is one of the most underutilized and clinically significant interventions for blood sugar control that exists. A 10-minute walk after eating can reduce post-meal glucose peaks by 20 to 30%. That is a number that should be on every refrigerator in America. Within 6 weeks, Patricia told me the burning at night had reduced from a 9 out of 10 to a 4. She was sleeping. Within 4 months, her B12 was above 500. Her fasting glucose had dropped to 94. And something she described that I still think about. She said she had stopped being afraid to walk to her mailbox alone. That is what is possible. Not a cure, not a miracle, but a restoration of enough function, enough protection, enough stability to give someone their life back. I want to be very clear about something, because I believe honesty is the most important thing a physician can offer. Nerve damage that is already severe, nerves that have died, pathways that have been permanently disrupted, does not regenerate quickly. Peripheral nerves regrow at a rate of approximately 1 millimeter per day under ideal conditions. That is slow. That is the biological reality. Anyone who tells you that any supplement, any protocol, any product will reverse years of nerve damage in weeks is either mistaken or dishonest. But, and this is the part that should give you real, grounded hope, stopping progression is not a consolation prize. Stopping progression is the battle. Because neuropathy that stops worsening is neuropathy that no longer steals more of your independence. It is burning that does not spread. It is numbness that does not climb higher. It is a body that, given the right conditions, begins to stabilize rather than decline. And for many people, it is partial recovery, quieter symptoms, better sleep, improved balance, that accumulates slowly but meaningfully over months. The window for that matters. Early-stage neuropathy, characterized by intermittent tingling, occasional numbness, mild burning that comes and goes, is far more responsive than late-stage neuropathy, characterized by constant pain, significant balance impairment, and loss of temperature sensation. If you are in the early stage right now, I want you to understand something with complete clarity. The time to act is not when it gets worse. The time is now. So let me give you, in practical terms, the framework I use with my own patients. Remove liquid sugar from your daily routine completely. Not reduced, removed. Juice, sweetened beverages, smoothies made with predominantly fruit, these are nerve toxins in the specific biological context I have described. They are the fastest route to repeated glycemic spikes. If you do nothing else after watching this, do that one thing, and you will have meaningfully changed your nerve's daily chemical environment. Pair every carbohydrate with protein or healthy fat. This is not about eliminating carbohydrates. It is about transforming how they behave inside your body. A piece of bread eaten alone causes a very different glucose response than the same piece of bread eaten with eggs and olive oil. The composition of your plate determines the speed of sugar delivery to your bloodstream. Slow delivery is protection. Fast delivery is damage. Walk after eating. Not a power walk. Not a workout. A 10-minute, easy stroll after your largest meals. The muscle contractions of walking consume glucose directly, independently of insulin. They act as a mechanical blood sugar sink. This is accessible to almost everyone and requires no equipment, no gym, no cost. Get tested, specifically and correctly. Ask your doctor for a hemoglobin A1C test, which reflects your average blood sugar over 3 months. Ask for a fasting insulin level, not just fasting glucose. Ask for a B12 level, and if you are taking a proton pump inhibitor, metformin, or a statin, explicitly ask whether you should be monitoring or supplementing B12 and magnesium. Do not assume your doctor has thought of this. Many haven't. Address inflammation through food, not just through avoidance. Fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel. Eaten 2 to 3 times per week provides omega-3 fatty acids that directly modulate the inflammatory pathways that sensitize nerve tissue. Extra virgin olive oil consumed daily has documented anti-inflammatory properties. Leafy green vegetables provide folate, which works alongside B12 in nerve maintenance. These are not exotic interventions. They are foods that have been shown, repeatedly, in peer-reviewed research, to lower the inflammatory markers associated with neuropathic pain progression. And finally, protect your sleep, because sleep is when nerve repair happens. The glymphatic system, which flushes inflammatory byproducts from the nervous system, operates primarily during deep sleep. Chronic sleep disruption, including the disrupted sleep caused by neuropathic pain itself, creates a cycle that accelerates damage. Addressing blood sugar, reducing nerve pain, and improving sleep are not separate goals. They are the same goal approached from different angles. I want to leave you with something that I tell every patient who sits across from me, feeling like their body has betrayed them. Your nervous system is not your enemy. It is sending you signals. The tingling is a signal. The burning is a signal. The numbness is a signal. Signals are communication. And communication means there is still time. The worst thing you can do right now is nothing. Not because I'm trying to frighten you, but because I have sat with enough patients at the point of no return to know what it looks like when the window has closed. And I've also sat with enough patients at the point of Patricia, frightened, in pain, and absolutely still within the window, to know what changes when someone decides to act. You are watching this for a reason. Something brought you here. Maybe it's your feet, maybe it's your hands, maybe it's someone you love. Whatever it is, take it seriously, get tested, make the changes I've described, not someday. Starting tomorrow morning, when you reach for that glass of juice, stop, have eggs instead. Walk around the block after lunch. Call your doctor's office this week and ask for a full panel that includes B12 and A1C. Your nerves are living tissue. They respond to their environment, change the environment, and you change the outcome. That is not hope. That is biology. And it is on your side, if you give it the chance.